Killer Mike is finally getting called out by the black community.
You want to talk about the importance of voting and the Voting Rights Act being slashed, but did you care about that back in 2016?
For pushing that both sides are the same narrative that misled a lot of people and helped Trump get in office.
Why didn't you support Hillary Clinton?
I just don't believe in her leadership.
Even when Trump was the alternative?
And honestly, this is long overdue because there's a very clear, direct line from that 2016 election to what we're dealing with politically today.
They're about to make a decision on Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. And I am sad to say I do believe they are going to kill it.
And whether people want to admit it or not, it's clear that Republican-led policies and federal court decisions are actively dismantling the rights and liberties of black people.
The black community is under attack right now at a level we haven't seen probably since the Civil Rights era. You know, with the Supreme Court gutting the Voting Rights Act, the purge of black federal workers, attacks on nonprofit funding with the whole DEI boogeyman.
Voices, platforms, and especially votes matter so much when it comes to representation and shaping policies that affect our lives. That's why it's so hypocritical that all of a sudden, Killer Mike is calling out the political peril that black people find ourselves in.
1965 Voters' Rights Act just got gutted. They gutted it. They literally eviscerated it.
No, the f you didn't.
But I'm Jew. Welcome to the channel. Please like and share the video. Don't forget to sub. Now, let's get into it.
Hey, what's up? Onyx Impact, Black Male Initiative. This is Killer Mike, also known as Michael Render. 1965 Voters' Rights Act just got gutted. They gutted it. They literally eviscerated it, and it's now trying to make it easier, or allowed it to be easier, for states to redraw district lines to annex those most in need out. This is not just black people and African Americans. This is poor people. So based on where you are, the more poor people are, they can chop you up. They can make sure you aren't voting on the behalf of the poor and the interests. They can make sure that it affects your schools. They can make sure it affects your jobs. They can make sure it affects every part of your life. So right now, you need to be putting pressure on our local politicians and local municipalities not to do this. You need to be putting pressure to make sure that those like you and like your neighbors still have the ability to exercise their full constitutional rights of voting, and it being effectively not eviscerated and us being taken back to Jim Crow. So we're going to start the largest voter initiative possible this fall. We're going to get people out to the polls. We're going to beat up those midterms, and going forward, we're going to do more than just march and protest. We're going to go to the polls. We're going to change the people who are in office. We're going to get those laws back changed in the favor of the people. This is Michael Render. Stay tuned. We're going to do something plot, plan, strategize, organize, and mobilize big next.
All of that sounds good in isolation. Killer Mike is talking about the Supreme Court decision, which impacts millions of black people, the black vote, and elections moving forward. The problem with that is none of this happens in isolation. Killer Mike was one of the main people, especially black people, on the Bernie Sanders train in 2015-16. And he was so adamant about Bernie Sanders or nothing that he told people not to vote after Bernie Sanders didn't win, which I believe him and people like him had a major impact on a lot of people either choosing not to vote or voting for Trump. Run the Jewels, Killer Mike says conscience wouldn't let him vote for Hillary Clinton. Killer Mike was a big Bernie supporter, and when Bernie didn't get the nomination, Killer Mike basically took his ball and walked home. And when it comes to celebrities or influencers, they wouldn't be using their voice if they didn't have influence, if they couldn't sway people to follow them. That's the whole point, that celebrities and influencers publicly endorse candidates because they want their fans and following behind them to also support that candidate. So when somebody like Killer Mike says, I'm not voting for anybody, both sides are the same when we're talking about Trump and Hillary, or Kamala and Trump, you are advocating for your people, for your followers, for your fans to not vote for anybody, which I'm sure a lot of them did. And again, which is how we get Trump a second time.
Why didn't you support Hillary Clinton?
I just don't believe in her leadership.
Even when Trump was the alternative? The only question where you didn't. Why?
I just don't. That doesn't mean I believe in the other guy. It just means I don't believe in you. So just your party needs to give me a better version of what you want to see. I didn't vote for Trump, but, you know, did we go to war under him?
Yes.
Was the economy better?
No.
What were the interest rates on the house when he was president?
They're about 7 now. So I know he's talking about Trump during the first term, but right now they're 7. The economy is in the toilet. Nobody graduating with degrees can find jobs. If you have a job, you might be at risk of losing it because we're at the highest layoff since the Great Recession. So everything Killer Mike is talking about, all his random justifications, kind of like Destiny said about Hassan. Now Killer Mike is coming up with all these different reasons and justifications of why he didn't support Hillary Clinton. But you can say the exact same thing about Trump. And on top of that, if you care about black people, he's putting a bunch of white supremacists in office and positions of power in the federal government. So how does that help black black people.
You understand what I'm saying? No president is perfect.
Right.
That person just wasn't perfect for me. Doesn't mean Trump was, just means you weren't perfect for me. I thought Bernie Sanders should be our president. You want the truth? That's it. That's just the truth.
Yeah.
Why didn't you vote Hillary? Because I voted Bernie.
Right, so he took his ball and walked home, basically.
But it got to a point where it was
Well,
either
so
gonna
what
be
makes
Hillary or Trump.
it gets to a point where I get the fine stripper or the fat stripper. If the fat stripper can't dance, I don't want the fat one. I just won't be getting a dance right now.
That's not how it works when we have a decision to make between two people that are going to govern this country. No matter who you supported in the primaries, if your person didn't win, if you don't agree with every single issue, at this point, it's not even about politics. It is about very clear, pure, evil dictatorship and another candidate that, if they're not great, will at least stabilize this country and try to undo some of the damage that Trump did. And we don't have to go far at all to see the consequences of that 2016 election, because in that time, Trump appointed 3 Supreme Court judges with lifetime terms. So when we get things like the Voting Rights Act being gutted by a majority conservative Supreme Court, it directly goes back to that 2016 election where Killer Mike told people both sides were the same and there was no point in voting.
They have been doing the work through it for years of building a Supreme Court that is configured as we now have it, and they're about to make a decision on Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. And I am sad to say I do believe they are going to kill it. And that will mean that the legal tool that we have to be able to litigate in a court what are clearly racist, influenced laws to prevent certain people from voting, we're going to lose the tool that we have had before.
And people immediately started calling out Killer Mike for the hypocrisy. Dear Mr. Render, you spent years building credibility as the conscience of black political imagination, the one who would tell us the truth even when the truth is too inconvenient. So let's tell one now. This Substack article titled Dear Killer Mike, Shut the Up goes on to explain everything I already talked about Killer Mike's stances for Bernie Sanders or nothing. Both sides are the same. No point in voting in the 2016 election. And the hell that all of those actions and narratives currently have us in. Along with other people that had that same stance as him. And Mark Lamont Hill and Boyce Watkins and Kwame Brown and Cornel West. At this point, you can add so many other celebrities to it. Kanye West, Waka Flocka, Nicki Minaj, Ice Cube was in there too. Steve Harvey, Jim Brown. There's so many that gave Trump an opportunity, allowed him to get in the position that he's in now, where he's destroying black America. Time for him to shut up. He does not speak for black Americans. The fact that he had a voice, platform, following, push behind him definitely influenced a lot of people. Again, that's why celebrities use their platforms, because they influence people.
It's not just black people and African Americans. This is poor people. So
You want to talk about the importance of voting and the Voting Rights Act being slashed, but did you care about that back in 2016? No, the f you didn't. Killer Mike says he's not voting for Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump, and that was on August 12, 2016. And for the people that be like, oh, well, he might have learned over the years. Let's see what Killer Mike had to say about Kamala Harris and Donald Trump in 2024. On Michael track, talking that shit, he raps, I don't give a fuck who the president is if the president's not for me. Does he think Kamala Harris is for him? I think anyone holding the position of president can do the things that I like about Bernie Sanders, he says cautiously, pointing to the issues such as legislation of marijuana and tax increases to fund education. Will Kamala or Trump have the wherewithal to do it? I don't know. So you want to talk about the severity of the Trump administration and what they just did to the Voting Rights Act. But in 2016, you were uncommitted to Hillary Clinton. And in 2024, you said, will Kamala or Trump have the wherewithal to do it? I don't know. So you've been uncommitted this whole time. So do we need someone like you on the front lines trying to spread awareness and shit? No, the f we don't. You showed your true self. We don't want no parts of what you're trying to influence anymore.
Killer Mike can kiss my ass and go straight to hell. He helped usher in Trump going way back to 2016, plus the SCOTUS we have. He's a big supporter of Kemp. He does not have black people's best interests at heart, and he never has. Him forever and always. Thank you and have a great day. It's really hard to argue with that when you see where Killer Mike's stances have gotten the black community. Killer Mike has always been Team Klan. That's him with Georgia's Governor Brian Kemp. Killer Mike, with all due respect, you had a lot of smoke for Kamala and Stacey Abrams, but I don't see that same energy for Trump. None of these people ever criticize Trump directly. It is the weirdest thing. They can talk about anybody and everybody else, especially people of color or women, but they never criticize Trump directly, even if they're talking about his administration or something they're doing. doing. It's never directly at Trump. Now, yes, you described his 2016 campaign rhetoric as crazy and stated that a Trump presidency would be horrible, but that was 10 years ago, and at that same time, he still was saying both sides were the same, and if it wasn't Bernie, he wasn't voting for anybody. Now your criticism is framed within a broader critique of American political establishment, but not Trump directly, even after he destroyed our voting rights. Why is that, sir? Everything he mentioned, this BS rhetoric from Killer Mike and others like him are exactly why we find ourselves in this situation. I don't know why Mike went on Threads. They've been waiting on him at the door. Good. Killer Mike did not support Stacey Abrams when she ran for governor in Georgia. He did not support Kamala Harris. We do not need him. I do not want to see anyone in the community embracing him. Let him go somewhere else. He helped to make it possible for Trump to pick all these white supremacist judges that limited the rights for black people to vote. Yeah, facts. Him, the podcast bros, already listed a bunch of other rappers and black celebrities that gave Trump a chance or were seen in pictures with him that basically got their faces played, because look now. The bigger conversation than just him is the sheer amount of black men and women who think just like him, that no matter what happens, choose to be contrarians instead of working towards what's best for all black Americans. That's true. Black folks like Killer Mike, Sean King, Nina Turner, and Cornel West are interested in politics for only one reason: money. Once Bernie opened the door for them to grift, that became their full-time job. They don't care about marginalized people. They're in this for a check. I think the Trump administration, MAGA as a whole, the conservatives that are in power now have to completely go. They have to get out of politics in order for any norms to come back. Democrats aren't perfect. They definitely haven't prioritized the black community like they should, and I definitely think that needs correcting. But for anybody arguing that Trump is a good president or was a better candidate than any of the people he ran against are just delusional. Just from education, experience, and competence, he's a much worse president than anybody he ran against. And other than Biden, who's a white man, it seems like people nitpicked any reason they could to either vote for Trump or not to vote for another candidate, which by default is voting for Trump, which Cory Booker actually called out in this speech.
After our primaries and Hillary Clinton was our nominee, there was some people, not all people, not even most people, some people said, well, I don't like her. I don't agree with everything she says. I saw it with Kamala Harris. There were too many people that say, I don't agree with her on everything. I mean, 90 out of 100, I agree with her, but those 10, I can't do it. Well, you may disagree with her on 10% of her views, but you let someone get in office who you disagree with on everything. You let somebody get in office who is locking up our children. You let somebody in office who's taking away our health care. You let somebody in office who's taking away workers' rights. You let somebody in office who got rid of the Department of Education.
I'm so glad that the black community is finally calling out people like Killer Mike. And there are so many people with platforms and voices now that a Killer Mike isn't the default for black people when it comes to politics anymore. Because he was dead wrong from 2016 to now. And him finally calling out what's happening to black people doesn't take away the damage that his stances or narratives did to us as a community and where we are right now. But shout out to my channel members. Thank you so much for supporting, and thanks for watching. Y'all let me know what you think about all this in the comments. Also, make sure you check out the next video, and don't forget to follow me on Instagram for behind the scenes and life stuff, and I'll catch you next time. Peace.